Okay, hey, and welcome back to our podcast and YouTube show, None of Our Businesses. I'm here with for the roundtable discussion with AJ and Charlie.
Yeah.
And AJ, I noticed you're wearing that Puma sweatshirt again. So
it's going to be my thing.
Just for our audience, we actually aren't filming this all on the same day. He literally just takes that shirt home, washes it, and then wears it again every week.
It's going to be my thing. It's like my outfit. I feel like
that's cool.
It's my podcast, like attire.
Yeah, it's your podcast shirt. Yeah,
looks comfy.
My wife says it looks like you don't do laundry. You're just wearing the same thing every week. It's not true.
I wanted to dispel that myth for the guest right away here. Yeah.
The truth is, we are filming these back to back, and Charlie was smart enough to bring a change of clothes.
Yeah,
I was not. You guys are way ahead of me. I'm just. I'll show up and do it.
All right. Well, I think we got a couple of articles to talk about today. So, who wants to go first here?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so I've got an article this week called 12 Small Business Positions That Should Be Full-Time.
And these like yoga positions?
Not quite. A little different. They got... they're looking at things like, let's see, what do they got? Developers, customer service, accounting.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a list of every position that exists in a business. But it's from smallbiztrends.com. And I guess I just wanted to get your guys' take on, what positions you think are crucial to be full-time positions in a company.
Well, my first question is, what does it say about accounting? I mean, we're all accountants, so I'm just wondering what they say about accountants.
It's got kind of a fun take on it. Its take is that that you should basically find somebody who is able to do a great job at a fraction of what someone else would charge. And basically that, you should just find a good, cheap accountant that does the best work for the cheapest amount
of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and they talk about outsourcing or what?
Yeah. Well,
so the article about full-time positions is suggesting that
you can't. We can't really argue with that, right?
Yeah, I mean it's too central to what the company does to really make sense to have somebody who's not there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you want the least cost. You want the best possible work for the least cost. I mean, the trick is how does a startup actually know that they're getting the best possible work? And I think that's really often the problem. And when you're hiring accountants, is that it's like, well, we think we're getting good work, and we think we've done it for a low cost, but you can evaluate the cost, obviously, but it's hard to evaluate the quality of the work. And it's like, in a lot of that kind of stuff like piles up on each other. So sometimes it can take a while before the fact that work is low quality actually even shows up.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where the whole rub on something like that always is that, and so like my advice to entrepreneurs and startups is, look, you're probably not going to beat the system. Like there's a market for everything, including accounting work. And so if you think you got the best possible deal and you just got this amazing quality for low work, most likely you didn't. Most likely the quality is commensurate with the price you're paying. So, unless you actually have experience or skills in evaluating that. There's some people who are serial entrepreneurs, right? So they've been through that rodeo before, and maybe they do know. Yeah. Or they, for whatever reason, have accounting in their background, so they do know. But the vast majority don't really know.
No, and I think that's right. I think, and I think it depends on where you're at in your, in the business life cycle. I mean, if you're literally just a startup, you should be bootstrapping a lot of that stuff, or at least hire somebody to come in and set up a system and show you how to run it, where at least you can like bootstrap those costs. They mention HR and stuff like that. I think it's very like dependent on your size too. If you're a 1 or 2 person operation, you don't need you need to be your own HR department, I imagine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or at least have the wherewithal to outsource the payroll portion or something like that providers do on the cheap. I mean, for 2 employees, I can't imagine it's more than like, $50 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And to have that regulatory thing taken off your plate, I think is huge.
Yeah, compliance just has such high potential for cost if you don't do it right, that you just have no choice but to really just get it taken care of by somebody who understands what they're doing.
But I think it's important from the accounting standpoint, and then the other one that always needs to be taken care of is a legal standpoint. I mean, if you don't have good legal footing,
Yeah.
You have to engage a lawyer, I think, and then at least have some kind of accounting system and some kind of like payroll delivery system if that's part of the business. I think those core things probably need to be set up. But for the most part, if you're a single entrepreneur, you're really early in the journey, you're going to have to bootstrap a lot of that. But
Definitely.
so it goes back to like you kind of need to know a lot about, or a little about a lot, and be really good at what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But then have enough wherewithal to understand if the services you are getting are actually, they're working, taxes are being paid on time, your legal stuff is in the correct kind of order, and your accounting, at least on a cash basis, money in, money out, is being recorded correctly.
Yeah, and like Ty said, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and if you didn't have the skills to do the work in the first place, you're not going to have the skills to evaluate somebody else doing that work. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about, so to your point about, when you first start up, you got to bootstrap it. I guess from your guys' perspective, is that just because the cash isn't there, or is there an advantage to an entrepreneur actually learning and doing some of all these things at first, beyond just saving money?
I think both.
Yeah.
Like I think it goes beyond saving money. I think it's like in life in general, it's always good to learn new things. And if you're going to be in the business world, you better know, at least a little bit about what the legal ramifications are of what you're doing, and what those pitfalls could be in whatever you're doing. I mean, if you're selling consumer goods, do you have choking hazards? Do you have IP, intellectual property covered? Do you have partner agreements? Do you have LLC, documents to make sure that you're actually a limited liability company and doesn't come back on you as a partnership or a sole proprietor where they can take everything if you screw up?
Yeah.
Those are like very basic things to get straightforward. Also, you should probably consult somebody to know the tax. If you're making decent enough money to be paying taxes on it, then you should be engaging somebody to know whether or not you're a different tax entity. If your business is a different tax entity, if there would be savings there.
Yeah, and just to kind of branch off that point, I mean, as a business owner when things are starting to grow to a pace where you need to start bringing in professional help because you know that the cash is finally there. You've done all this work to get to this point, and here we are, needing systems in place. And
right.
So,
and to Ty's point about that, bootstrapping or learning it, regardless of the monetary thing, when you actually have the money to pay for somebody to do it for you, and that's not your strength or the core part of your business, at least you'll be able to evaluate the value that person is bringing you.
Yeah.
Is it worth the money that I'm paying to them? If you know enough to be able to, like, okay, I did most of this by myself or with somebody's help before, so you have a basic idea of how it should look, how it should run, then if what you're getting in return when you actually take it off your plate is correct.
yeah.
And
I think there's this like fallacy that business owners often do where they start thinking that, well, I'm the one who cares the most about my business, so I'm the one who has to take care of everything. But what they don't realize is that like the people who they would bring in to take things off their shoulders care more about whatever their domain of expertise is. So it's like, yeah, they don't care about your business the way you care about it. Nobody will because it's your baby or whatever, but that person cares more about accounting or cares more about human resources or whatever they do than you do, and they've made a career out of it because that's what they wanted to do with their lives.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I see that. I see that happen a lot. And then, I mean, I think just building off what you were saying, some of the kind of the best clients that I've had the opportunity to work with are the operators who did do it themselves for a while. And then they got past the point, they made that transition of, oh, this is too much for me to do, or it's getting to a complex level that it requires some expertise. But at least then they had some appreciation. So when you're having that discussion about, and I'm talking about the accounting, of course, when you're having that discussion about, well, hey, here's, what you're asking is going to require, the information you're asking for Mr. Entrepreneur or Mrs. Entrepreneur is going to require this amount of work, or it's going to require a certain effort that we haven't done before. They're not like, they aren't giving you a completely blank stare, and I've had those exact conversations where they kind of look back at me and they say, yeah, I know, I used to do the books myself, so I get it. I know what you're talking about. And I think that's the best possible place, because the alternative, the worst the less, not necessarily the worst, but the less ideal places are the entrepreneurs who never touched it themselves. They hired people right away to do it. They never quite understood whether those people were doing it right or not, or what they were getting. and then they don't really have a great way of evaluating what we're going to do for them either, right? So it's like, and I'm sort of cynical on that issue in the sense of, sometimes you get kudos from a business or an entrepreneur. They're like, hey, you did such a great job. And actually I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that's great you feel that way. But in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not sure how I did a great job, right? And so, at some point, the determination, the heuristic is so fickle that you're using to say I did a great job that I kind of know this could turn 180 degrees on me at any time that you suddenly think I did a bad job, and that's not true either, right? And so it's like, and so, yeah, I want them to have some sort of understanding of what's going on.
Or even a worse situation where they think you did a good job, but fiscally they're kind of like at their limit with you, I guess, or they in their mind, they were like, it should cost this much to fix this problem. I've paid that much. It's pretty much fixed. And we're telling them that you can get more value out of us for X amount of more hours, which translates to more money.
Yeah.
But you can get, that much more value out of us. Let me show you, or, just allow me to perform that. No, you've done a great job. I think it's good enough, kind of like.
Right.
And I'm like, And,
yeah. Well, and you've got a work product on the street that is not complete, but you couldn't, or necessarily as accurate or correct as you think it should be, but you couldn't do the work there to do it because they weren't going to pay for it to be done right.
Yeah.
And so, that's for any service provider, that there's a risk of when you have a client who won't pay you to actually do it right.
Right.
It puts your reputation in jeopardy when that happens to some extent.
I had an experience once. I used to sell tires for Pep Boys.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pep Boys, if you want to sponsor the thing, you have a great service centers. I don't know. But not really. But
we just lost that one.
Cut that.
No, I'm just kidding. I doubt anybody for it. Well, actually, the people that were very innovative with technology. But so the way I got involved was I was working at a call center, which is as exciting as it sounds.
Yeah.
And I was probably a really horrible employee, but what was the Office Space? I just kept getting promoted. What I really wanted was just to get out of there, but I would show up to work every day, so they're like, "Oh, you're doing great." So we got moved to like a remote tire sales, and I would get calls all the time because they would advertise 4 tires, for $99 or whatever it is, or whatever it was. This is back in the 90s, and so people would call with like Mercedes. What kind of car you got? Mercedes 300E. Great. I have tires here. Great deal. They'll fit your car. They're rated the correct price. Well, how much are they a piece? $200. $200, you have an ad that says $99. I want $99 tires. I'm like, $99 tires don't go on a Mercedes. Like they're just not meant to be. $99 tires go on the smallest, shittiest car you can think of, and that's why we advertise it that way. You don't want those tires. And they would swear up and down that they wanted $99 tires. That's what was advertised, and that's what they wanted. And in many situations, they would go somewhere that would, not follow a safety protocol and put those kind of tires on their car. But they were dead set that that's what the tire should cost, and that's what they want to pay.
Yeah.
And it's like, being trained in what tires do and how, the skinny on tires and what you want. You don't want a $100 tire on a Mercedes. You're asking for trouble, you know? Like, so I think the same thing reigns true when you think you found the best deal you could.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I can get my books done for $200 a month.
Right.
You get what you pay for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if you're a small service provider, a one-stop shop, if you can get your books done for $200, maybe you're getting your money's worth. But if you're an actual functioning business that's bringing in multiple transactions, have AR, AP, that kind of stuff, and you're trying to operate an accrual accounting system, and you're getting it done for $200, $300, $400 a month, you're probably not getting what you're paid for. Yeah. And I can't imagine any other ones on the list. If you're paying that kind of money, you're getting what you're paid for.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what else was on the list?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Well, like I said, it's just about any job that exists. They had, let's see, SEO Specialist, anything tied to intellectual property, legal, upper level management, which of course, got to agree with that one. Hard to have a part-time upper level management.
Some of these just sound like they needed to round out a
service.
10 list.
Were they saying that SEO specialist should be a full-time job?
Yeah, everything on this
Read
list
the quote.
is
What's the
supposed to be a
quote say? Because these
full-time
are, I think, was
SEO
looking-
is everything these days, and you want somebody on your team that knows your business inside and out and is fully committed. This way, they can properly implement an overarching strategy that is consistent and make sure that all of your content serves this strategy. And that was by Ruben Jonathan.
I bet you Ruben Jonathan is an SEO specialist
Probably.
in that group. Jesus.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to get it done right, I think that probably so. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether every company needs SEO done right or not. But
Yeah.
With web designer development or whatever it is being the first one, I think this was and looking at the list now, hearing the list, I think this is probably around like e-commerce businesses
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
younger entrepreneurial.
businesses that are very web centric.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and that would totally make sense if it was web
does,
centric.
yeah.
Then your SEO person,
Would matter.
yeah, would be like super important. Yeah.
Well, and the developers being at the top of the list, I think, really makes sense because there's just so much transition time and something like that. Where if somebody comes into a new company, they're not going to be able to hit the ground running, and so you need someone who's been there for a while, knows how the architecture works, and how to get how to do that job, basically.
Were there any others on there that were surprising or odd to you?
Key value generators, kind of a vague
I don't even
thing.
know what that is. Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
They kind of put it. They
That's
put it
a
at the end because it was
required-
like it's like saying anyone who matters in your business should be there. But yeah, any employee who's important to the success of your business is the actual quote. And so yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
There's more words here, but
that's
there's not
another
much.
one you can't argue with.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
well, when I think about that might be it. And they're probably thinking about like, even though they had sales as a separate one there, I think they're probably thinking about, Team Rah Rah or something like that. But I would think more like you're forward facing, like a receptionist or anybody. Like I go to the gym every morning or try to go to the gym every morning, and it matters to me who's at the front desk.
Yeah.
I'm there at 6:00, and Tiffany and I have a favorite like front desk person. So I think those kind of things can matter, Like,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think probably when you put this in context of most startup businesses, and you were talking about people bootstrapping it, I think your founders usually take on these roles in some different ways, right? And so, like sales, I think always sales is a full-time role or as close to full-time as you can get it, but often that your founder is the sales lead, and until you're ready to hire that and get that sales help. And so, but yeah, in terms of somebody working on sales full time, I would totally agree with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a product or a service to sell,
Yeah.
and you're not,
Yeah.
I mean, that drives everything.
Yeah.
You don't have any sales, you don't have a business.
Yeah, that's
you
the
know?
first thing always. Yeah.
You can't do any accounting if no cash is coming. I mean, you can, but it's not going to go on for
Not
very
fun.
long.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no.
Yeah. No, I've heard it said differently, but yeah, your business is made by your customers. You have to have customers to have a business, but yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.